The Netflix docuseries, The Comeback, the 2004 Boston Red Sox does drop on Wednesday. What do you want to see from the documentary? Hit us up in the comment section on the Locked On Red Sox YouTube channel. Former Red Sox infielder and NESN analyst Deven Marrero joins us today on Locked On Red Sox. We're going to ask Deven what he thinks the ceiling is for Ceddanne Rafaela. You're right where you need to be. You're Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Steve Lennox, host of Locked On Red Sox Postcast, and I'm filling in for Gabby Hurlbut. Gabby, now Janian. Gabby and David got married this past weekend, so on this Tuesday, October 21, 2024, Gabby and David, happy 3-day anniversary. Again, we wish you all the best from myself and Locked On. Our latest Locked On Red Sox is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. We're going to visit with former Sox infielder Deven Marrero in just a few moments. Deven served as a studio analyst this past season on NESN on the TV side for the Boston Red Sox. Deven also drafted first-round pick by the Red Sox out of Arizona State back in 2012. We are inviting you to participate in today's Locked On Red Sox episode. Let's hear from you, our everydayers and our first-timers. Here we go with this latest Netflix documentary. There's one of two, so this is the first. This one chronicling the 2004 Red Sox run. Tomorrow, October 22nd, the 20th anniversary of Game 1 of the World Series between the Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals. Games 1 and 2, of course, we know, at Fenway Park before the Red Sox moved to St. Louis up 2-0 and swept the 2004 World Series. Again, we do want to hear from you. We're going to touch on it. We want your thoughts. We're going to have your thoughts and share your thoughts over the next couple of days on Locked On Red Sox, filling in for Gabby. And we want to hear from you about the 20th anniversary. Even if you weren't born 20 years ago, even if you just heard second half accounts, let us know your stories about the 2004 Red Sox and winning that World Series title, the first in 86 years. Watching live on the Locked On Red Sox YouTube channel. Again, you can hit the comment button and join the Sox conversation. You can also hit me up on the X. Follow at Lennox on Baseball with questions, comments, or concerns. Again, we can use those over the next couple of days. So we've heard plenty about the Netflix 3-part docuseries on the 2004 Boston Red Sox. Again, it's dropping on Wednesday, finally here. Netflix docuseries on the 2024 Red Sox. That's going to drop, I believe, later on in the year. But I'm looking forward to this one. I really am. Not sure if we learn anything new. Mentioned Monday when we chatted with Ian Brown from MLB.com, currently reading Terry Francona's book with Dan Shaughnessy. And Terry Francona had some interesting things to say, but just really the amount of tiredness, the day in, day out, all the stuff that went on it, sleep deprived when you're in those situations as players, as writers like Ian Brown chronicling the 2004 Red Sox. You can read Ian's latest on MLB.com on the 20th anniversary of the Red Sox winning the World Series over the St. Louis Cardinals. But one of the interesting things that I picked up from the book, and Ian actually touched on it when we visited with him on Locked On Red Sox on Monday, was how confident Theo Epstein was. Terry Francona shared it. Ian Brown shared it yesterday. Terry Francona shared it in his book that I'm currently reading. But Theo Epstein, with the scouting that they had in place, with everything that the Red Sox had in place after winning the ALCS in 7 games against the New York Yankees, down 3-0 in that series, winning 4 in a row. Kevin Millar conversation with Dan Shaughnessy. I'm sure we're going to see that in there. It's like, don't let us win tonight, because if we win tonight, and then he sort of chronicled what they had going forward, win game 4, then you win game 5, and then the pitching was set up the rest of the way. But Theo Epstein was very confident with what the Red Sox were putting together and what the Red Sox were facing with that World Series. What do you want to see from the doc? Again, hit us up in the comment section on the Locked On Red Sox podcast, our YouTube channel. What player or front office executive do you want to see steal the show, perhaps? Perhaps they go with somebody a little bit more. Also, I'm very interested to see how people respond and talk about Larry Lucchino as well. I'm going to share one of the Terry Francona stories from his book with Dan Shaughnessy on Larry Lucchino and winning the 2004 World Series. We'll do that over the next couple of days. But again, if you want to leave a comment, you can leave a comment with me at Lennox on Baseball on the X or in the comments section on Locked On Red Sox, the YouTube channel. Again, Steve Lennox filling in for Gabby Hurlbut. Gabby is going to be back in a couple of weeks. Gabby Maljanian. Gabby and David, again, getting married this past weekend, and we wish them all the best as they go forward. Again, Locked On Red Sox, brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Deven Marrero, former Red Sox infielder, former first-round pick of the Red Sox organization, and now an analyst on NESN, joins us in just a moment. Locked On Red Sox, brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. Game Time features seat views. Game Time features seat views that give you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you purchase your tickets. And with Game Time, you get the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. With Game Time, you can take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and more with the Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app today, create your account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, use the redemption code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices are guaranteed. And with that, we welcome in Deven Marrero joins us now. Deven, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I've got you flipped. So can you go 90 degrees one way? Not you, but your screen somehow. There we go. And now I just need volume. Where do we have Deven on the volume? We're going to get that here in just a moment as well. Can't hear you right now. Nah. Nope. It's on Deven's end. We're going to see what we can do here. Let me see if I can go here real quick. How about now? No. No, I thought I had you. No. Deven's got the issues that I've had in the past with audio. Again, Deven Marrero is going to join us in just a moment here, working on the audio from his end. Steve Lennox in for Gabby Hurlbut. Day 2 for us. We're going to be here this week and next week with a lot of different guests lined up. Day 3, Wednesday, again, the 20th anniversary of Game 1 of the 2004 World Series. We're going to touch on that here in just a few moments. Let's see if we've got Deven now. There.
How we doing?
We got you.
All right, we're locked in.
Locked in. We are locked in. Appreciate taking a couple of minutes with us. Mike Rooney, mutual friend. We'll touch on Arizona State with you here in just a minute. But, Deven, I mentioned, your credentials, obviously former first-round pick by the Red Sox organization, played with the Red Sox, just wrapped up your big league career and your playing career a couple of years ago. Now an analyst with NESN, your first year. Let's start there with how you got into that role and how much you enjoyed it and what you learned along the way this year.
Yeah, last year, I retired last year in June, and I started to make some videos during the postseason, because I want to get back into the game. I want to get into the media side. I love media and photography, videography, and all that. So get into that in the off season and did the postseason stuff, did some videos that caught fire, which was great. Then I showed up to the winter meetings, and I saw TC and the people at NESN. Like, hey, man, we've been seeing your videos. Would you want to get into this world? And I was like, of course, I would love to. And they reached out, and I did about 25 games this year, and it was a blast. It was a fun season, up and down, a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but it was an exciting group and cool to be back into the game, and obviously amazing to be back in Boston.
I love it. Great story. So as you're in studio during the course of the season, and you're getting into September, both on air and off air, and just in studio when the mics aren't hot, where were you at where were you at the point where you reserved yourself or resigned yourself to believing, we got to that point where they were mathematically eliminated, but you came to the ballpark almost through the entire season, right up to game 162, where there was a chance, although as it got later and later and you were clicking games off the schedule, those opportunities to make the postseason became, less and less.
Yeah. I mean, as long as the numbers tell you that you can get in, right? You can't give up. As a former player and being in playoff situations, it comes down to the last day usually, and this year was exciting because not a lot of teams were playing well, right? The Royals stunk the last month. The Red Sox weren't very good after the All-Star break, so there was always a chance because teams just weren't playing great, like the Orioles weren't playing great. For a chance there, we had a chance to get into the division race. You know what I mean? So teams just weren't playing good. So there was always that sense of hope, and as a player, if you have that hope, you strive for it, and it gives you something to play for towards the end. You never want to be that team that's a month into the season and you're already out of the playoffs and you're like, all right, well, we're playing individually now. And that's just not fun baseball, not fun to be a part of. But these guys stuck together and grinded it out, and they were officially eliminated like 3 games left in the season, which is cool, with the season that they had.
You talk about the grind. What did you observe from the analyst perspective this year working with NESN compared to being a player, of seeing those guys and just understanding, getting to those, through the dog days and then all of a sudden towards the end of the season? What did you observe as an analyst this year?
I observed that these guys had that fight, and they had a great leader in Alex Cora, and when you have a leader like that, to me, he's the best manager in baseball. It's not even remotely close. That's why he got paid what he got paid, but for me, he has these guys ready to play every day. They don't listen to the outdoor noise. And even they had Netflix there all season, and that didn't seem to bother them really. They played their game, and, I think the culture of the Red Sox culture is coming back with Jarren Duran. He brought that this year, and I think that was contagious throughout the whole clubhouse. And, a lot of young guys, when you have a lot of young guys, you need someone to look up to. I had Pedroia to look up to. These young guys coming up now have Jarren Duran. Hey, this is the style of play the Red Sox expect us to play. So it was fun because they were in it, and they would be the best team in the league for a month and then be the worst team in the league for a month. It was just like, it just made so much sense that they finished 50-50, and it sucked at the end because I think anybody could have been in the World Series in the AL. I think the AL was the weaker division this year. So, but it was cool to watch, man. They kept us engaged into the game, and it was a fun team to watch this year.
I'm coming around, Deven, to understanding that, Major League Baseball's postseason in October is now a tournament. I don't like using that, but with that, of calling it, more of understanding that it is a tournament, it's just a matter of getting in. Has there been anything over the course of this postseason where you thought, geez, if they had just gotten in? And I posed this to Ian Brown yesterday from MLB.com, who covers the Red Sox. And, he's like, look, they just, maybe they won, maybe they took 2 out of 3 in the opening round, but, they probably don't get past the division round. But is there anything that over this last couple of weeks that you've seen in the American League, especially, that you just thought to yourself, if they had gotten in, you just never knew where it was going to go?
Listen, the playoffs is now like March Madness, right? Like any team can win. Whoever's hot is going to roll. We saw last year the Diamondbacks, great defense and great pitching get you through the playoffs, right? So it's all about who's hot. And the Red Sox have that team that can be dangerous in the playoffs. They're playing good defense. They have speed, right? In the playoffs, you're not going to hit a whole bunch of homers and win games. That's just not a recipe for success. That's why the Yankees in the past have had trouble in the playoffs, right? Because they don't have that team, whereas this year they do have a more of a complete team. And the Red Sox have that team that they get into the playoffs and teams are like, oh, shit, look out, because they have speed, they play good defense, and they do matchups very well. I think that's what is Cora's expertise, is matching up guys very well to succeed.
What we're seeing here with the bullpens yet again, every single bullpen is on fumes. But B, Dave Roberts or whoever it is, they're bringing in guys who are throwing 97, 98. Is that something you think the Red Sox sort of, build up, that their bullpens next year, no matter who's coming out of the pen, they're going to be throwing gas?
Yeah, they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose Kenley for sure, and Martin is on the last leg of his career. He's had a great career, not this year, but last year was one of his best seasons ever. But they need to get some high leverage guys that throw gas. And listen, there's a bunch of bullpen arms out there because these kids are now taught to just throw hard. But it's all about location and stuff nowadays, and those are the guys that have success. But yeah, I think they need to beefing up the bullpen and get some starting pitching, some veteran starting pitching in the roster.
So that's going to be money.
Yeah.
That's going to be spending money here.
They have it. They haven't spent it in a while. They haven't spent money in a while. So the last big signing was Devers, obviously, and Story. But after that, it really hasn't been the money spending Red Sox that we're all used to, right? So they have the money, and I think Breslow wants to start spending it a little bit because they see the team that they have. They see the young players that are coming up that can make big impacts. And when they do, you want to have a team that's ready, a team that's not fighting for third place or fourth place, right? You want a team that's fighting for the division. They have the young groups to do it.
Devin, you mentioned Jarren Duran, and we'll sort of go back to, this 2024 season that just wrapped up for the Red Sox. I think it's a, when the AL MVP is announced, it's Judge, it's Witt, it's, maybe it's Judge, Witt, Jarren Duran. Third place finish in the AL All-Star or AL MVP voting this year. Jarren Duran finishes third. Yeah. Pretty impressive. What makes it more, how do you put it into perspective? And I hate that word, but how do you put it into perspective of the season that he's had? And can those numbers actually get better in 2025, or was this the quote-unquote career year for Jarren Duran?
I think his numbers get better. I think this is just the beginning for him. This is the first season that Cole said, hey, you're going to be our leadoff hitter the whole year. You're going to be playing every day. Whether your performance is good or bad, you are our guy. And Duran is what I saw this year is that if you give that kid confidence, he's going to take it and run, right? I mean, he went to the All-Star game, and he's like, man, I don't know if I belong here, right? Gets into the game, wins MVP, goes, oh, I belong here. Like, I am one of the best players in baseball. And when you give a guy that vision, because we all need a little bit of recognition, right? A little bit of a gratification of saying, hey, am I doing the right things? And is my style of play, does it work in the big leagues? And he saw that it does. His style of play does work in the big leagues. And you saw this year was kind of a learning curve for him. This was his first season of playing 100, and I think he played 159 because of that suspension.
Yeah.
And you could start to tell the later part of the season, he kind of got a little bit tired. The extra base hits weren't there. The home runs weren't there. The stealing bases wasn't there because he wasn't used to playing a whole season. The past 2 years, he's been the platoon guy, being up and down in big leagues and minor leagues, and that's, you need to play a whole year in the big leagues to kind of get yourself going. And he got that this year. And I think next year it's going to be amazing to watch from our side, but it's going to be scary for other teams to face him.
Can he, the stolen bases were interesting because, he got to third and he seemed to be, and even the triples too, he led, there were a couple of times, I think he ended up with 13 or 14, and it was like, hey, he hasn't had a triple in a month, but he's still leading Major League Baseball in triples. Is there I mean, geez, how many times he put the ball in play, right in one of the alleys or down in the lines where the outfielders weren't running a half a mile. They were just, going over to cut it off, and he's at second base. Do you try to temper that a little bit to say, hey, you don't have to bust it out of the box every single time, or do you just let that run, and that's Jarren Duran as a player?
No, that's his style of play. You look at Dustin Pedroia. Pedroia didn't dog it. If Dustin Pedroia doesn't play the way that he plays, he isn't a Red Sox Hall of Famer, right? In my opinion, he should be a baseball Hall of Famer, Dustin Pedroia. But you can't take away what makes the player great, right? For example, if you take away the aggressiveness of Rafaela, he isn't what he is, right? Like he thrives off that aggressiveness at home plate. You just have to temper it a little bit. But for Duran, that's the style of play that he thrives in, where the best comes out of him. You don't want to take that away from the player. The moment you take away what makes them great, they don't perform at that level that they should be performing.
So, Deven, I do want to touch on, you mentioned Ceddanne Rafaela. I want to ask you about him in just a moment, but end of the season, you're in the social media world. You're out there. You're putting content out there. You're also taking in the content.
Yeah.
So when you and who knows what Craig Breslow in the front office is thinking right now. You always say buy, sell high. You don't want to sell low. You want to sell high. And I'm butchering that right there, but you've seen, Duran, maybe you trade him at his, peak value right now, or Tristan Casas. What's gone through your head when you've heard that two young stars, the guys you're not truly paying yet and who you're counting on, people want to move them in deals to get things back, get other players back?
I have a great opinion on this, and it's you keep two of those three, because you have a young group of guys coming up that can really make this team be great for 6 years. That's how teams be great for a long period of time. The Dodgers, the Astros. You have to keep guys that you brought through your system. The moment you start trading guys and bringing guys in, you kind of mess with the culture, right? And the culture that these guys are bringing to the Red Sox is what the Red Sox need. So I think you keep Rafaela. I think you keep Duran. I think the one guy that they will get rid of at some point because of injuries and he hasn't shown that he can play a full season is Casas. If you have to pick one, if you want to be real picky and pick one, it has to be Casas, because he's not on the field every day, right? And he has a big body, big swing, and a guy with that much going on, it's really hard to stay healthy, and you want a guy to play as many games as possible. But if you had to be real picky and trade one, it would probably be Casas, in my opinion. But you have this young wave of talent. You have Teal in the catching spot. You have Roman Anthony in the outfield, and you have Marcelo Meyer, which will probably be the last guy to come up through that group. But you have to keep this core group together, and then you start trading maybe some veteran guys that you have to then start filling up the whole roster to kind of have some longevity there and make a splash in the division.
So with Rafaela, is he 140, 150 games in center field next year? And when you looked at him this year, I mean, there were some big hits, there were some big home runs, Yankee Stadium, just to name one. But what is the ceiling for Ceddanne Rafaela as he matures, physically and just starts the same thing this year, going through that full season at the big league level?
Listen, he has a chance to win multiple Gold Gloves in center field, and I think everyone saw that this year. With him being out there and all the amazing plays that he makes, and when we paid him in the beginning of the season, everyone was like, "Oh, he hasn't played a game in the big leagues yet. He doesn't deserve this money." But when you look at it now after his rookie season, right, you're like, "Oh, this was a steal," and I think it's going to be a steal. This is a guy that has the ultimate ceiling, and all he has to do is hone in his approach, because he has the speed. He has that heartbeat of, like, it doesn't change in big moments. He had, like you just said, he had a bunch of big hits. He had the most RBIs for all rookies this year, and he doesn't shy away from the big moments, and he's going to be a special player for this ball club. But you're right. He needs to be in center field. That's where I think his max, you're going to get the max out of him in center field. Whereas, for example, like Mookie Betts, you're going to get max playability in right field for him. You know what I mean? So center field for him is definitely the play for the future. And you have Duran out there and left, and then you have Roman Anthony coming up right behind all these guys to make a big splash. Yeah,
these guys are coming fast. When you were engaged in conversation about the guys that are on the brink of the big leagues, and I think there were 8 or 9 guys who made their big league debuts this past season that were like 27, 28. I don't like to call them minor league lifers or anything like that. They were great storylines and all that. But how many of these young guys are actually going to debut at the big league level in 2025? You can't handicap it right now, but it's just interesting that they're not all going to come. They're not all getting promoted from AA to AAA in 2024 and all coming up at the same time for Alex Cora to the big league level in 2025.
Yeah, I think opening day next year is Roman Anthony. He has to be there. you want to develop guys in the big leagues, right? You see it all the time where the guys tear up the minor leagues, tear up AAA, get to the big leagues, don't succeed, and they bring them back down and they keep raking in AAA, but then they get back to the big leagues and they don't do the same as they were doing in AAA because they need to have extended time in the big leagues. And the quicker you can get these guys up there in moments where, do we really think they're going to beat the Yankees in the division next year? Probably not. So this is a learning year for these guys, and you want to get them up there to learn so that when this team is ready to win, all those guys are ready to go. But I think Roman Anthony will be the first guy on opening day. Teal would maybe be second one up, and then Meyer, and then Campbell after that will be. I think that is like the order of when they will start coming, depending on if Story's healthy or not. That's always a big story with him. But these guys are ready, man, and you need to get them so they can get that year under their belt, so that when this team is actually ready, when they get the bullpen that they want in 2 years probably, or the starting pitching that they want in 2 years, these guys have a full season under their belt and they're ready to go for that second year when this team's ready to win.
Couple more for you, Deven. And you mentioned Kyle Teal, and I started thinking about this probably early September. As he gets up to the big leagues in 2025, he's doing that from the catching position.
Yeah.
What does he need to focus on? What do you need to hear during this offseason about Kyle Teal that tells you that he can handle a big league pitching staff once he's in the big leagues next year? Because we know that's priority number one. You probably have, if you have Jason Varitek still on staff, that's probably going to help. But he struggles with the bat. It's got to be an understanding of you're still taking care of business behind the plate.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at majority of catchers in the big leagues. All they care about, all the managers, all the organizations care about is, can you steal strikes? They don't care if you hit. They don't care if you throw guys out. They don't care if you block the ball. But what they need is this guy behind home plate stealing strikes. And that's all the organizations care about, right? If the bat comes, that's a super plus. You know what I mean? But for him, it's getting him to the bigs and seeing the big league pitching and getting big league at bats, and putting good at bats together, and having Varitek in that clubhouse. You saw what it did for Connor Wong this year, right? I mean, this guy had a heck of should have been an all-star, right? And having Varitek by your side for these young guys, these young catchers, is a plus, and they're only going to get better with him there.
On the pitching side, and all these guys, and we've talked about it now for, since last spring training and everything, of the position guys are coming. Chaim Bloom and how they drafted with the position guys, the middle of the field guys like you were, coming out of the high school ranks in Florida and Arizona State as well. I feel like Craig Breslow, not that he gets a pass, but now's the time. His second offseason, his first draft this past July, this past summer, now's the time that he really starts to implement his pitching plan. Would you agree with that assessment as to, now they're, we understand you develop pitching. Again, that's another way to keep costs down, and you're developing your guys.
Yeah, I think it takes more than a year, right? Because you have the draft and you have to develop these guys through the minor leagues, even though guys are flying through the minor leagues nowadays. But it's going to take a couple years for him to really have his hands on developing pitchers from the minor leagues all the way up to the big leagues. That's gonna take longer than what people think. You can't just, hey, I'm here, this is a new pitching plan, everyone's gonna be great. You know what I mean? That's just not how it works. When you're changing pitching plans all through the minor leagues, that takes a while because guys already have a routine. Guys already have a way of handling their business. When you change all of that, change the metrics of all the analytics for the pitching department, that takes longer than a year. So it's going to be a while till we see really his changes in the pitching development really make an impact in the big leagues.
All right, Deven, you shared with me you're about to go on a golf outing with some former Arizona State teammates. Yeah. I can't let you get out of here without telling, from your firsthand account, maybe it was your first time meeting Dustin Pedroia. You've got Arizona State ties, obviously, or just one of those stories over the years where Dustin Pedroia, in his own way, had a positive influence on you to get you right as a big league player, or to get you in the right mindset is what I mean there.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, right, I would watch him play, and then when I committed to Arizona State, Pat Murphy, you just hear him rave about Dustin Pedroia and who he was as a player, and Murph kind of told me, hey, you need to walk, like, this is who you need to be, right? This is that grinder mentality that ASU is about. And so his style of play kind of trickled down to everyone that came to Arizona State. Like when I was there at Arizona State, we didn't have big guys. We didn't have number one prospects on our team. We had those guys that were from Arizona, from Chicago, that were just gamers, grinders. And, I kind of took that in and made that part of my identity, through college and throughout my whole career. And, being drafted by the Red Sox, that was a dream come true for me. And, I think the biggest moment for me was being able to be on the field with him and turning double plays with the guy, right? I mean, that was when we turned a couple double plays together up there in the big leagues. We turned a lot, actually. It was just so fun. And, being in a clubhouse with him is, when you look up the word gamer in the dictionary, Dustin Pedroia is the first guy in that definition, and it was just so much fun. And that guy off the field is a legend too, just the same way he is on the field, confident and making jokes. That's how he is off the field. And it was just so much fun to be a part of his life and have him be a huge impact on my career.
Deven, outstanding stuff. Hit the ball long. Get it on the green as quickly as possible. Short game, I'm sure will be. But enjoy it. Appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully we can connect down the road. Enjoy this baseball offseason. It's certainly going to be an interesting one. But again, appreciate you taking the time and continued success.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
That is Deven Marrero joining us, former big leaguer. Great stuff. Mike Rooney, Arizona State ties with Pat Murphy, manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. I reached out to Runes. I've worked with Runes on college baseball on ESPN, ACC Network, SEC Network over the years. And Runes is just one of the absolute best as an analyst and just a terrific person as well. So I'd reached out to see, hey, I'm doing this. I'm filling in for Gabby, Locked On Red Sox, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Do you have any Red Sox ties? And he said, let me think about it. He came back a couple of nights ago and said, hey, Deven Marrero's the guy. I'm like, hey, Deven, I saw him a lot on NESN this year in studio as an analyst and did a great job. And, in a matter of minutes, we put together Deven joining us here today. In a couple of moments, we're going to go over the lineup of guests for the rest of the week because I'm excited to share these with you. Steve Lennox, again, filling in for Gabby Hurlbut on the Locked On Red Sox YouTube channel. We're going live 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday this week. We may change up the time to go live next week. Again, we're doing a little bit different than Gabby. She's had guests on and terrific guests on in the past, but I'm going to try to line up a different guest each day. We do want to remind you, the Boston Celtics raising their 18th championship banner in franchise history. And they also open up the NBA season tonight at home in Boston against the New York Knicks. John Corrales, outstanding job covering the Celtics for Locked On. John has you covered, Locked On Celtics. And I'm going to be on board going forward, starting tonight with our first and our debut of the Locked On Celtics postcast as well. That's going to come on immediately within 5 minutes or so, just like we did. If you're familiar with the Locked On Red Sox postcast from the regular season, we will chronicle the Celtics season. You can join us on the postcast on the YouTube channel, which is part of the Locked On Sports YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that one as well. Again, our thanks to Deven Marrero for joining us on Locked On Red Sox. A look ahead to the rest of the week and also a little bit more on the Netflix docuseries that's going to be released officially on Wednesday. That's next. So Locked On Red Sox brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 off and bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet with FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. So again, Steve Lennox in for Gabby on Locked On Red Sox this week and next week. If you're with us on the Locked On Red Sox YouTube channel, thank you. And again, our thanks to Deven Marrero as well. We're going to get out of here in just a few moments. I know we're going long here, but we do appreciate you making Locked On Red Sox your first listen. Check out Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered each and every single day on Locked On as well. Our thanks to Deven Marrero. We're back at it on Wednesday with another edition of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, also on the Locked On Red Sox YouTube channel as well. Michael Lynch is going to join us. Michael, a longtime friend, runs SeamHeads.com, was part of the group that put together the Negro Leagues database, where the Negro League stats from the years of Negro League Baseball are now part of Major League Baseball stats. Michael's going to join us tomorrow, and we're going to go down, and we're sort of going to go through Game 1 of the 2004 World Series that took place 20 years ago tomorrow. So Michael and I are going to kind of go through the box score. So if you want to hit us up at Lennox on Baseball, where you were, big at bats in Game 1 of the World Series, what you thought about the Red Sox taking a 1-0 lead in that World Series as well. And tomorrow, with the 20th anniversary of Game 1 of the 2004 World Series, that Netflix docuseries is dropping as well. I guess it's 3 parts. I don't know if it's going to be released all 3 parts or if it's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll look into that. But looking forward to that one. Really am. Across the board as to what goes on with that as well. Again, we appreciate you, and we appreciate you joining us on the Locked On Red Sox YouTube channel. Also, for your first listen with the Locked On Red Sox podcast as well. Thanks to our guest, Deven Marrero, once again. And I mentioned Michael Lynch. Thursday, just kind of giving you a little preview before we say goodbye. Pam Kemp, Red Sox longtime Senior Vice President of Community Relations, Alumni, and Player Relations. She's going to join us on Thursday when we go live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And then Jeff Quesa is going to join us on Friday. Jeff is the general manager and president of the Portland Sea Dogs. Portland Sea Dogs this week, Red Sox AA affiliate in the Eastern League, just recognized by Sports Business Journal. So Pam Kim from the Red Sox front office, Pam, longtime senior VP of Community, Alumni, and Player Relations, joins us Thursday. Michael Lynch from SeamHeads.com Wednesday as we go through Game 1 of the 2004 World Series. You can join us for that as well. We are back at it Wednesday with the Locked On Red Sox YouTube channel and with the Locked On Red Sox podcast. We'll go live on the YouTube channel at 12:30 p.m. Eastern with Michael Lynch of SeamHeads.com. Locked On Podcast Network, your team, your Red Sox every day.